WWE Crown Jewel 2024 takes place on Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and there are 7 matches on the card. Not 5, 7 matches. We're going to make predictions for each of them. Before we do, I keep telling you guys, follow me on Twitter at WrestleBlake, having lots of WWE discussions over there. So hit that link in the description and pin comment below to follow me over there on Twitter. But let's jump into predictions for each of these 7 matches. We start with the Women's Tag Team Championship match. It's going to be Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defending the titles against Damage Control, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, and Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. And I think this is an interesting one, right? Because if you look at the theme, well, we've seen these champions defend their titles before in a multi-tag team match, and they lost them to Alba Fire and Isla Dawn several months ago. Could that same scenario play out here? Because if you're looking at it, right, this is a time where you're going to do one of these matches. Jade or Bianca do not have to get pinned to lose the championships. And so, because of that, I think, your ears perk up a little bit to say, could there actually be a title change here? Well, I think the question is all about timing, and we keep bringing this up when it comes to Jade and Bianca. If they are settled on potentially a one-on-one match between the two at WrestleMania 41 or maybe beyond, are they to the point yet where, you start hint at some of those things that could break them up? Could there be some dissension? Could there be some miscommunication? Things like that start to at least lead you in that direction. I think we could certainly see something like that play out here, where, it's just that slight little tiny tease that there's some kind of miscommunication, someone doesn't agree with someone else, on how they approach the match, whatever. Could that play out here and lead to one of the other teams winning the titles? Sure, I think it could absolutely be the case. But I think you have to sort of look at it as though, how do you make the strongest argument for one of the other teams? And I think you can make an argument for each of the teams, right? If you want to push Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson all the way to the top right away, you could have them kind of pull off the upset win here, and all of a sudden they become the champions without even sort of officially being called up to the WWE main roster, right? That could be an interesting way to go. Damage Control speaks for itself. I mean, these are two very good wrestlers. Putting the titles back on them, could you have Dakota Kai, maybe sort of make an appearance back in the mix here, those kind of things. That's also, I suppose, a possibility. And if you put the championships on them, again, you kind of have them bounce from brand to brand and be able to defend it in different sort of scenarios and all that. And then there's Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, who you guys know I talked about Chelsea Green going all the way back to Money in the Bank. I just think she continues to do great work in terms of her character, her personality, all of that. And, maybe this is an opportunity to give her and Piper Niven a chance at holding these championships. But the thing is, I just don't think I can make a strong enough argument for either of those 3 teams to take the belts off of Jade and Bianca right now. You can still say, well, I mean, where do they go from here if they win, right? That's a great question, because I just think it's sort of the state of kind of the tag team division right now, and I don't have a great answer for that. But because I don't have a great answer, I'm going to pick Jade and Bianca to retain, even though the multi-team match always raises some interest because it is a way to have them lose and not get pinned. If I had to pick a team to beat them for the championships, I would probably go Damage Control. And I don't know if that's the way they're going to go, but that's probably the route I think that is the most likely, but I could certainly be wrong about that. But I'll pick Jade and Bianca to win just because I don't feel like I have a great argument or anything that really sort of leads me in the direction that WWE has hinted at a title change here, but you just never know in these 4 tag team type matches. So there you go. Jade and Bianca on this one. I think we've gotten every prediction right on these PLEs since Money in the Bank. We missed a couple there, but since then we've gotten it right. I don't feel great about this one. I'm just going to let you know up front. I think we're going to miss several of these matches because I think, again, there are some ways that they could sort of swap things up a little bit here on this show. Speaking of the triple threat match, another multi-person match here where you could have the champion lose the title without getting pinned. And again, that could be a possibility here when you look at it for LA Knight going up against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Look, I am of the opinion probably of a lot of people. What did the 7-match series really do for Andrade and Carmelo? Both of them had an opportunity against LA Knight. They both lost. No one won the series. Can you have LA Knight beat both of them here again? Because I just think that to me takes it even further in that direction of, man, what did Andrade and Carmelo get out of this 7-match series, right? If LA Knight basically embarrasses them in Game 7, and then he winds up beating them both to retain the championship. It's a great question. But again, you can take the title off of LA Knight here without him getting pinned, and I think that's also, kind of an interesting scenario that could play out here. what did the AJ Styles injury kind of do maybe for their plans? And I think that's something to consider. What did they have in mind before the AJ Styles injury? How was he going to factor maybe into this scenario and all those things? I think that's what we have to remember here. Did it change their approach to how they were going to do this? Again, with that 7-match series and all that, it's possible. But this LA Knight United States Championship run, it probably has not exactly hit that next gear that some may have expected it to whenever he won the championship at SummerSlam. And so I think because of that, there's two options here, right? You can either just have him lose the title and not get pinned. Maybe Carmelo pins Andrade, Andrade pins Carmelo, and one of them walk out as the champion, and then LA Knight's kind of back to chasing things. And then if he wins it again, then you maybe kind of start over and say, all right, we want to kind of start fresh on this new title run. This first one did not reach the level that we thought it could. And I always say the reason for that, I think sometimes, is just challengers. It's a matter of if you have a babyface that's been chasing the championship, he wins the title, you got to have great challengers lined up in terms of believable people who can take the belt off of him. We talked about that with Cody Rhodes, right? Since winning the undisputed title at WrestleMania 40. He had some of those matches where you just didn't exactly buy in on AJ Styles winning the title. You didn't buy in on Logan Paul, winning championship, those kind of things. And so that's what makes a title run. And so I think for LA Knight, him losing this, boy, it would be a very forgettable title, run if he decides, if he loses this match, right? So I'm going to pick LA Knight to retain because, again, it's the same thing I said about the previous match in that I don't know that there's been enough to sort of build up that next person and or team in line, referring to the last match, to make you feel like there should be a title change here. And so even though I could absolutely see it, I could absolutely see a scenario where Andrade wins the championship or Carmelo wins the championship, and all of a sudden, one of these guys come out of this at least a little bit better than they were before, because again, if not, if LA Knight just, pins one of them, then what? Like, what's next for those two? They're not going to have a 14-match series, right? So there's a lot of questions here coming out of it if neither of those two win the match. But again, I don't have a great sort of compelling argument as to why I think they will win. So for that reason, I'll pick LA Knight to retain. But I think this one, I would not be shocked by a title switch here. Not to say I'd be shocked by a title switch with the women's tag team titles, but I think this one may be a little bit more of a likelihood that you could see a title change. It's just a matter of which person is it going to be, right? Is it going to be Andrade? Is it going to be Carmelo? I'd love to see Carmelo get the title here because I think there's a lot you could do with that. Again, putting the title back on a heel and maybe having LA Knight and or Andrade and someone else maybe chase him. I don't hate that idea at all. So, but I'm going to pick LA Knight just because I don't have a strong feel for who's going to walk out victorious in this one. All right, let's get to this next one. I think this is one of the most intriguing matches on the card. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. We know this has been built off the back of Cody Rhodes because it's all about Cody's friendship and how it has sort of deteriorated with Kevin Owens after Owens attacked him in the parking lot after Bad Blood. And that has led to all of this bad blood between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens now. And so we had Owens, kind of attack Orton and all these things, and we've been building and building towards this big match. And I think, again, this is one that absolutely I feel like is going to deliver in a big way. And it has to because, again, this is not just tied to these two guys. It is tied to your current WWE Undisputed Champion, Cody Rhodes. And so because of that, this is a very important match. And I feel like when you look at how this could play out, to me, and look, Orton's come up short in some big matches. We know that kind of, throughout the year. You can look back at some of these things, and yes, like he's come up short. Whether it's the Gunther one, right? Whether it's multiple times against Gunther, basically. Different matches like that. He has kind of been the person that has come up short. He's been battling the Bloodline, all this other stuff. But I hate to say it, I think he's got to kind of come up short here again, too, because I think this is all about Owens. You're pushing this new edge for Kevin Owens, and I think the question is, how far will Kevin Owens go to prove his point? How aggressive will Owens be to prove what he's trying to say about Cody Rhodes, what he's trying to say about WWE? And I think this is where you could see Owens kind of take it to a level that maybe we did not expect, 3 months ago, right? When these two are shaking hands and teaming up with each other, and now here we are, where Owens is willing to go to the lengths to where maybe he takes aim at Randy Orton's injured back, all the history with Orton's back. Maybe Owens takes aim at that, and he just keeps going and going and going to where, again, he wins this match. And I think that has to be sort of the aim here, is that you want Owens to come out of this the winner, because I do think Owens is probably getting another championship match before Randy Orton gets his, whether that is, at Survivor Series, Saturday night's main event, whatever. I do feel like, Owens is going to get that next opportunity against Cody, and then the Orton thing seems to be saved for a little bit further down the line now. So if Orton, once again, right, we've said that time and time again, Owens took sacrifices for Cody. If Orton takes the sacrifice here, where all of a sudden, as Orton said, if it becomes a problem, then it's going to be a problem for Cody Rhodes, right? Well, if Owens, takes out Randy Orton, goes for the back, those kind of things, then Orton has himself a problem. And it's all because of how things have played out with his friend Cody, and then maybe that is what kind of leads to the eventual turn. So I like Owens winning this match. I think it makes the most sense. You would not do all of this, in my opinion, to have him lose this match to Orton, because I just don't think it gives you that story momentum coming out of it if Orton just comes out and beats him. But if Owens wins, then you have Owens coming out of this with a very clear goal, and that's to take the championship off of Cody. And you also have Orton coming out of this, whether that's, favoring the back, whatever, having to really rethink some things about his friendship with Cody Rhodes, and we go from there, I think. So give me Kevin Owens to win this match. All right, another singles match, grudge match here. Seth Rollins and Big Bronson Reed. We know this one comes about after just one of the most memorable angles of the year on Raw, where you had Reed just, tsunami after tsunami after tsunami on Rollins a couple months ago. Rollins makes his way back, and these two have been brawling back and forth. We know led to kind of another big spot this past week where they're standing on the equipment truck. Reed hits the Death Valley driver on Rollins through the table. And so WWE is really playing up the idea, and you heard it on commentary on Monday. Joe Tessitore said it. Rollins was sent to the local medical facility. And, what does that mean, knowing that Crown Jewel was just 5 days away on Monday? And so, to me, they're already playing up the fact that Seth Rollins is not going to come into this match 100%. And I think that's good, because I think this is one of those where, just like we talked about before, with a CM Punk Drew McIntyre type thing, you knew it was going to be a series that was not going to have just one match. And I wonder here, is this going to be another one of those that maybe doesn't go 3 matches? But if you're going to have multiple matches in this series, I think you can absolutely make the argument that Bronson Reed should win this match. Because, again, you are kind of building in that injury angle potentially for Seth Rollins, where he comes in as the underdog. And if that's the case, I don't know that I love the idea of Seth Rollins coming in as the hurt underdog and then finding a way to beat this unstoppable beast Bronson Reed, who not only has gone through all these different, matches and different, huge moments, these impact-type moves, right? But he gets up and walks away, right? They've made it very clear each time. They want to make it obvious that Bronson Reed is not normal. He gets up and walks away from these huge kind of, momentum type things where, he's going through the table too, but he still gets up while Rollins is having to be, cared to by officials and everything else. Bronson Reed is built different. That's how WWE has been pushing this. And so for that reason, I mentioned to you guys in a couple of recent videos, I'm thinking, okay, the timing on this one too. Is Seth Rollins about to get back into the world heavyweight title picture? I don't think so just yet. Because remember, I think Gunther is still got to go through Damian Priest, and I still think he's got to go through CM Punk before you're going to get Rollins back into this picture. So if we go with the idea that it's going to be Punk versus Rollins at WrestleMania 41, which as of right now, I think that is seemingly a very likely direction. Remember, they wanted to do that at WrestleMania 40 before the Punk injury. So if they're going to go in that route, and maybe it's for the championship, maybe it's not, I think you've still got a little bit of time to get Seth Rollins to where he's winning, he has to win these matches, right? But if he's coming in selling an injury and maybe you're going to get another match between the two, then I think it's okay to have Bronson Reed win here. And then that gives Bronson Reed, a signature win that he doesn't necessarily have to this point. He's had these huge moments. He's looked like a monster. But this signature win that he absolutely needs, I like that idea. And so I'm going to pick Big Bronson Reed to win this match against a less than 100% Seth Rollins. And what this also does is, it could give Bronson Reed a claim to have a shot at the world title too, but it could also start to put him in that rotation where now we look at this guy as someone, okay, maybe he's an intercontinental type champion type guy. And I keep telling you guys, Give me Big Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker every day of the week, and I'll watch it every day of the week because I think that's another match they can get to, just like we saw with the big tease with Breaker and Jacob Fatu. A tease between Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Count me in on that one too. So I think this may be, maybe the pick that I look back on. I'm like, okay, clearly Seth was going to win the match. It's his big return match and all that. But again, I think if you're going multiple matches in this series, and maybe it winds up just being 2, I don't think Rollins has to win this match. And I think it would do a lot more for Bronson Reed to win this one. So I'm going to pick Bronson Reed. Even if we still maybe have our undefeated streak going for the last couple months in the predictions, I'll take the loss on this one if needed. But I kind of like the idea of Bronson Reed winning this one. All right, let's get to our 2 Crown Jewel title matches. And we start with the Crown Jewel women's title match. It's going to be Nia Jax taking on Liv Morgan here, and a couple of different wild cards in play, I think, for sure, when you look at this match. Of course, WWE released the story that Rhea Ripley has a fractured orbital bone based on the attack from Liv and Raquel on NXT this week, and it was also reported that Rhea is actually dealing with an injury, in reality. So is she going to be involved here, or was this basically just a way to write Rhea out of the picture and take away any idea that she could show up here in this match? So I think that's something you have to think about. I still wouldn't put it against them to have her show up here and be, kind of some sort of player in how this match finishes. But if not, we know the other wild card is Tiffany Stratton, and who is she going to cash in on? And this is the perfect scenario to really play that up, right? Because it is champion versus champion, both title holders in the same match, and Tiffany is going to be there with the opportunity to cash in on either. You guys know, I've said it multiple times. Yes, Tiffany cashing in on Liv Morgan would be great for Tiffany to win the world title. But the biggest impact is going to be if she cashes in on Nia Jax. And are they ready to do that just yet? I don't know. And so I don't know that they're there just yet in terms of wanting to do that. So if that's the case, then becomes, okay, well, who should win the match? Well, I think that if Jax were to win the match here, it kind of is a position where they've set it up, right? Nia has said each time, okay, I'm going to dominate basically Liv Morgan, and then, Tiffany, you're going to have the option to cash in. And so if Nia does that, if she does what she says she's going to do and just beats Liv Morgan here, remember, Raquel's on the outside, so you feel like Raquel's going to play a role in this match too. Tiffany's going to play a role in this match. So I think with all that said, if Nia is the person who still finds a way to come out on top, and Liv is the person who is now laid out and Tiffany has a chance to cash in, does she hesitate, right? Does she hesitate to cash in on Liv? Does Raquel maybe take out Nia? I think the big sort of spot here can be where Nia and Liv are both somehow laid out, either during the match, after the match, whatever, and Tiffany basically is in the position where she has to choose. And the crowd is going to be pushing her towards, please choose Nia. Cash in on Nia. Again, the relationship, the history between the two. So I feel like that is probably bigger here than actually who wins this match. I think it's all about Tiffany Stratton and what she's going to do and kind of the scenario she finds herself in. If both Jax and Liv are down, who does she cash in on? Does she kind of follow Liv's or Nia's orders here? Those are all the questions. I'm going to pick Nia Jax to win this match. I just think they've been building her as a dominant force, as we know. Liv can afford a loss here, but I think the cash-in is kind of the biggest part of this equation, where, again, I feel like this is all about Tiffany Stratton, and whether you like that or not, I just think it's set up that way. And this one, I think, at least, not to say Cody versus Gunther won't be a great match, but I think this match, in terms of having the two champions face off, has a little bit more appeal in terms of the unpredictability. And so I think, at least it has that going for it, I feel like, in doing these champion versus champion matches. But give me Nia Jax to win this one. Again, I think Liv can afford a loss here just because it's Nia and she's been a dominant force. And, there are ways they can do this. Like I said, Rhea could still show up despite the injury. Tiffany could get involved. Who knows? Do you want to take the women's world title off of Liv Morgan? To kind of get that with her and Rhea whenever that match eventually happens again without the championship. I don't know if I like that idea, because I think Rhea's made it clear her aim is to get that title back, and it needs to be on Liv in order to do it, I think. So there you go. Nia Jax, my pick for this match. And the other one, as we know, it is going to be Cody Rhodes versus Gunther, champion versus champion here for the men's Crown Jewel title. And, we talked about Kevin Owens earlier, right? And I think that with Kevin Owens, if he does what we think maybe he's going to do to Randy Orton, you've got to assume that Owens could potentially play a factor in this match. And if he does, then I think, you're looking at several different possibilities, right? With Owens, I think you have to make him coming out of this show, not just the match, right? Coming out of this entire show, I think you want to have a clear direction that Owens is coming for Cody's championship again. And the difference this time is that it's not the same Owens who faced him the first time. The Owens who was hesitating and did not want to accept the match with Cody Rhodes. It's different now. Owens has figured out, okay, this is who I am. I've made these decisions, and I'm not hesitating anymore. I'm going to take the championship from this guy. And so I think that's the feeling you want coming out of this. And if so, would Owens getting involved in this match against Gunther be a route you could go? Sure you can. We talked about Triple H and kind of these big title matches. Sometimes he likes to leave it alone, just let the competitors decide it. But sometimes, there is going to be interference involved, and we know that. And could this be one of those? Sure. Because I think you're going to have Owens probably play a role in this. But again, we could also flip it and say maybe Orton plays a role in this somehow if they decide to speed up, that story a little bit. Gunther has mentioned in promos multiple times, right? We talk about the promo builds to these matches. He's mentioned how Cody, almost is pushing Cody as unfocused because he's bringing all of these people into his business, right? Cody has all these friendship problems and everything that's going on with Owens and Orton, and he's just coming off the Bloodline stuff with Roman Reigns. Cody's got a lot kind of rotating around him. Gunther, though, does not. Gunther is your world champion. He's the workhorse. He just goes out and wins matches. And I think that's how you play it up here, is that Gunther is more focused. He's the more focused wrestler coming into this match. Cody, not as focused because he's got everything else sort of hovering around him right now, and all these questions, all these unknowns. And so I think Gunther is in a position where he wins this match. It sets up that rematch in the future between the two, way down the line, whenever you need to do it. And I think, remember here too, Cody doesn't even have to get pinned to lose this match. You can do sort of the choke out type scenario where you get kind of a TKO, type win for Gunther here, and you don't even have to pin Cody. I think it's the best scenario you could ask for in terms of how they want to do this and not have Cody get pinned, in this match, even though, like we said, Cody did get pinned by Solo Sikoa back at Money in the Bank, and that kind of stuff is played out. But I don't think necessarily in a one-on-one match they probably want to have Cody get pinned here. Could absolutely happen. But I think if you do kind of the submission route, just as we've seen Gunther do before, here's kind of been the theme, I think that plays right into being able to tell all these different sort of little storyline moments and still get away with that without having to pin Cody. So I'm picking Gunther to win this match, and to be honest with you, I don't think there's a lot of doubt in my mind about this one. I think Gunther should win, and I think he does beat Cody Rhodes. So, all right, now we get to what I'm going to assume is the main event. May not be, because you do have the first Crown Jewel title, and maybe it is Cody versus Gunther. Either way, I think it's fine. I know we keep debating this. Bad Blood, should it be Punk and McIntyre, or should it be the Bloodline tag team match? I just don't think it matters anymore, to be honest with you. I think that, again, these are all kind of high-profile type matches that are debated in these spots. And because this is kind of the match that's going to headline Survivor Series at War Games, I would not be shocked at all if this is the match, the 3-on-3 match between Roman Reigns and the Usos against Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and I'm going to assume it's Tama Tonga. I don't know if they've officially announced that yet. But so here's the story, right? We all know, coming off of Raw, coming off of SmackDown, this is all going to be, I think, about Sami Zayn. And I think it's what role does Sami Zayn play here? He had the meeting with Solo Sikoa, and now it's 4 on one side of this graphic, it's 3 on the other. We know there's a missing piece, and that missing piece is Sami Zayn. The question is, does he get involved in this match, or does it happen on Raw the next night? Because one of the things I keep forgetting is that they are doing Raw in Saudi Arabia on the next night. So could they save that with Sami Zayn reuniting with those guys on Raw? Could that happen? Sure, but I think you've got to at least take a next step in the direction of getting there on this show. And to me, this match, I mentioned kind of feeling pretty confident about Gunther beating Cody. I almost feel maybe more confident about who I think is going to win this match, because if the setup is that you're going to do the Survivor Series War Games match, and you have to have a reason for that, right? You have to have a reason for that match to exist. What's the reason if Roman Reigns and the Usos win? There is no reason. So I think it's got to be Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga getting the win here in this match because I just don't think it makes a lot of sense otherwise. They have to win this match because, again, it gives you no reason to do the return match at Survivor Series in War Games unless not only does the rogue version of the Bloodline win this match, but they've got to do it in an emphatic way. They've got to send a statement here, right? So they can win the match, and then maybe it is kind of the same thing we've seen. I know some people feel like it's repetitive, but to me, it's really just the numbers thing. So I think you have a beatdown afterwards. Is Sami Zayn going to come out to make the save? How does Sami, kind of view whatever's happening here? Remember, I still think Sami's ultimate goal, he just wants to protect Jey Uso because of the friendship that he has with Jey. We know that he had the relationship with Solo where those two were pretty tight. But if he sees that Solo is not going to kind of stop this, Sami's going to pick Jey over Solo. And I think that's how we kind of get to that point where maybe you have the Bloodline beat these guys down after the match. Everybody's wanting Sami to come out. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Because again, Sami should not just, all of a sudden just change his mind on this because he was frustrated as can be with Jey on Monday, and you need a little time to build up these decisions and these huge decisions that are impacting, these wrestlers for the future. Just like we said with Jey, where he loses the Intercontinental Championship. All right, well, now he's got to make a tough decision. Is he really going to get back into this? He wants revenge, but is it enough to want to get back into this? Jey said, absolutely. Now, what's Sami going to do? Because, again, Sami has the biggest history with Roman Reigns, and those are the two, and Jimmy Uso, too, really, to a little bit of a lesser extent, but those two guys don't like each other. We know that. So, how do you bring him back into this? And I think that's the story here, is how does Sami get involved? And because I don't think the story is who wins the match. I think the match has to be won by Solo and company, or else there is no reason to do the War Games match. Unless they're like, all right, we're going to give Roman and the Usos the win, and then we'll have the Bloodline get their heat back after the match. They beat them down, and that's how we get to it. But I think you got to have, this group get a significant win here, because if not, I don't think they're winning the blow-off match at War Games. I think that is absolutely going to be Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Sami Zayn winning that match. I'll go ahead and make my prediction for that one right now. But I just, I feel like there's just too many ways that you could go wrong here if you have Roman and the Usos win, because I don't think it would do Solo and company any favors leading into this, because we've said Solo feels like he needs a little bit more momentum back, and this will be a way to do it, I think, to be able to have that side get the win in this match, and then we wait and see, what does Sami Zayn do? Which side is he on? We'll find out. Perhaps at Crown Jewel, or maybe the Raw after Crown Jewel. But there you go, guys. They're my predictions for these 7 matches. Again, I think it's a pretty fun card. Again, it does also nice to have a couple extra matches on here. But I mentioned, I do not feel confident about a lot of these picks. I think that, you could have some surprises here in terms of some of these title swaps that maybe we're not expecting. Whether it's the women's tag team match, whether it is, the United States Championship match, because, they've kind of left it a little open-ended on some of these. Even if, you wonder about the contenders and the challengers, or are they really there yet in terms of being the champions? But you have some stories to tell with the champions involved. And so I think, there's a lot of intriguing options here in terms of who wins these matches on this Crown Jewel card. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Give me your predictions for Crown Jewel. And as always, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well on your way out there. And again, I appreciate you guys watching as always. And let me know your predictions for WWE Crown Jewel.